Hello. Hello, Evolutionary Women's Council. Hello, my sisters. Um, well, I'm so happy to be here with you. We finished that series. That was such a labor of love. I had the calling quite a while ago. And I want to talk to you today about the one thing that kills your intimacy, your sex life, your purpose, and your connection to so many other things. First, I want to say also, if you received a request from us to take the survey in your inbox so that I can keep helping creating content for you, please take it. It's anonymous. Like, I don't know who's saying what unless you want to send me your name and phone number, but it's anonymous, so it'll really help. So yeah, I will just, I don't know if you guys can hear, it's snowed here, so our neighbor is like shoveling. But I'm excited. I'm excited to, Jody's here. Hey, Mama. Yeah, so I want to share with you this thing that is so important, and it's essentially the nice girl. Like, the nice girl will kill your sex life. She will kill a lot, actually. And here's the thing, if you've been with me for a while, you've heard me talk about this before, especially after the election, after the last presidential election and the Women's March, which is really the embracing of the sacred no. Because at the time, there was a lot of, we were all really present as a collective to the fire of Kali Ma. And so I was talking about it a lot. So if you've been with me a while, then you would know. I see you guys in here. It's so weird. I can't tell what's going on the camera. You've heard me talk about it, but I want to relate it specifically to different areas of your life so that you can actually see it, and also the way that it corresponds to shame. And I think we attract our tribe. I've definitely healed my sexual trauma, but I do attract, I would say, at least 50% of the women that I work with have experienced some sort of sexual trauma, and that tends to leave a residue of shame that takes a really long time to heal. And even if the ones who have no recollection, if you're one of the ones who has no recollection of any trauma, or is sure there hasn't been any, but if there's any of that nice girl, if there's any of that people pleasing in there, so I'm going to go into all of this. So it's really about embracing the sacred no. And here's the thing. If you don't know what your no is, you're not going to know what your yes is. Like what your deep, full body yes is, And it's like, I didn't really know my no until, I would say like my mid-20s. So my first long-term relationship, like my first marriage, and which was, we had a lot of sex, but I was in my head a lot. I wasn't like really present. I didn't know how to like really get into it if we weren't drinking. And now I know that that's because I didn't have a connection to my no. So if you want to get to your yes, if you want to go to that deep, ravishing, lovemaking place of permission for your voice and your creativity and ownership of your sensuality and embodied sexuality, all of these things, you get to know what your no is. Yeah? So, so here's the thing, how it relates to sex. Monique, hi, love. So, here's the thing. So many of the times when I work with someone, like, whatever they have like repulsions around or shame around, like, if it's a certain type of porn, or if it's a certain, like, they have shame around what turns them on, or whatever it is, that's the place that actually needs to get explored. And hear me, that's not going to be like the thing that stays forever. Like, that's not going to be the thing that they're going to explore forever. But it is the thing that needs to get explored, because if there's shame wrapped up into it, and like the no isn't coming from an empowered place of sovereignty, where then there can be a yes offered either to that or to something else, it's holding the power hostage. So what am I really talking about? It's like, when it comes to sex, whether it's your own sexuality with yourself, or your sex with your spouse, or how you talk about sex in your partnership, whether you're poly, whether you're monogamous, whatever it is, if you never go to the edges to find your no, like, you have to go to the edge to find your no. When you find your no, then you can actually find your yes, which is the doorway to crazy, crazy bliss. But the no can't be a knee-jerk reaction. It can't be like a trigger. It has to be a no. So for example, when I was in my 20s, and if you've watched my story, you know I spent a few years as an exotic dancer. I had a good friend. Who, you know, was sort of like my initiator into that world, and she's one of my best friends to this day. And she is really into, you know, was really into like exploring the swinger culture, and she was just a lot more free in that way than I was, which is why I wanted to be with her. Hi, Emily. Which is why I wanted to be with her, because she embodied this freedom that I just was like, woo, like, you know, how do you do that? And so I remember, I'm giving you an example of going to the edge of the no, right? She wanted to go to this party. It was Memorial Day, I don't know, like 2005 or something. And we went to a swingers club, and I was fully on board. Like I think we each did like a half or a whole tab of ecstasy, and we danced the whole night, and we were with like, you know, there was like a lot of awesomely kinky, fabulous things going on. Like I had like women flirting with me who had like super tight corsets on, and couples who were like coming on to both my friend and and I was just going along with the ride. I was exploring, right? I didn't think, like, I just didn't know. And I knew that she embodied the freedom that I wanted. So anyway, we're at the club, we're dancing, we're drinking, and we burn it all off, you know, we burn it all off. So there's like, we're not really like high on the ecstasy. We're not rolling anymore. We end up in I guess one of the couples had a room upstairs at the hotel. So we end up in this room, and I'm like, you know, this is like when it's going to happen, right? If you're going to have a swingers party, this is when it's going to happen. So I'm sitting on the bed. The husband is sitting on one side and the wife is sitting on the other side, and they're young and cute, and they're like both making moves on me. And I feel myself, you know, like, oh, I don't know. And so I kind of was like, well, let me check with my girl and see, you know, maybe she'll be able to guide me. So I'm like, where is she? Where is she? And I go, and they're like, she's in the bathroom. I go to the bathroom. I listen. She's in there, like, she's in there holding a strange man's penis while he pees. And I was like, okay, obviously she's not available to talk to me. So I was like, I gotta go. Like, I don't want this. But I couldn't have known, like, the places that I related to so many things that were sexual before were from a place of like, and so that wasn't empowered, that wasn't powerful, that wasn't free. I had to go to the edge. So what I'm saying is, when it comes to sexuality specifically, if you want to free yourself of shame, you got to go to the edge of the things that irk you, get face to face with them, and then you can embrace your sacred no, right? So I had that no, and the more I had that no, then the more that I could have my yes, like what is true for me, right? Monogamy is for me. and we have like, I have a lot of freedom in my relationship with my husband, and like how we relate and how much we share, and, you know, constantly, like, I don't know, I have like, you know, I bring stuff to him all the time. Like, babe, I want to do this now. I want to do this now. It's like, okay. So I wanted to put that in there. And then here's the thing. To be aware of when there has been trauma, a lot of times now the no is like this type of a no. So it's like no, and it's a no to like almost everything. It's a no to almost all intimacy. It's a no to anything that will threaten the, you know, the safety that we've created for ourselves to be able to even walk in the world, to be able to even be in relationship with other people. So I want you to walk back from that no. That's not the sacred no, that's the traumatized no, right? So that's the trauma speaking. The sacred no that comes from going to the edges is, it's just so much more loving. It comes from such a loving place because you're ushering yourself to these edges. So it's really important to know also that intimacy heals trauma. Like intimacy, not necessarily sexual intimacy too, but, you know, intimacy with sisters, intimacy with spouses, family members, community, tribe, even intimacy in this group. That's what heals our trauma little bit by bit, right? So if you are aware that you have too many no's, I would say have a look. of where the place is where the trauma still gets to be healed, so that you can have a sacred no that allows you ultimately to experience deeper intimacy and more uninhibited, pleasurable, orgasmic sex, and more of an aliveness when it comes to your purpose and your vocation and your creativity and what you're wanting to put into the world. So another example I want to give you, we had this beautiful, I know a couple of the women actually watching, so we had this beautiful women's retreat at the end of my last program, my signature program, Beauty Unleashed, that has a retreat at the end. And so we had spent like a day and a half fully activating the erotic body, just lots of Kundalini breath activations and a lot of ancestral clearings and just erotic dance. And we had just fully awakened the eroticism in the body as a source for creativity, right? The third day we were going to focus on creativity. So what's your creativity if you're fully alive? So anyway, it's day 2 and we're having a ceremony, and we've changed spaces. So we were in a workshop and now we're in a home, and it's a more intimate space, but the same women who've been together for 6 months. And excuse me if you can hear that siren over there. So one of the women, I'm giving you this example of her really embracing her sacred no that allowed for greater pleasure, right? So she was in one room. It was a multi-level house, and in one of the rooms there was multiple things happening where one woman was really releasing her sexual trauma and creating safety with the masculine and coming into the sensuality of her body. Some of the other women were coming into adoration of the female body and really embracing their curves. And so their shirts were flying off, and it was just, that was kind of the space I'd been setting up for 2 days, right, to have this kind of freedom. And then downstairs was a group of women who were more in the primal, wild, growling, embodied aspect of this energy, right? It's all the same energy, the primal energy. So, so this woman, and she did have trauma, and she's in there, and she is basically freaking out on the top level where the women's shirts were flying off. Now, it was I went in there and it was not at all like an orgy, right? Nothing like that. It was just really sisters who still had their pants on, just taking off their tops. And after all this work we've been doing, they were really claiming their healing, right? For each other and for themselves. But for her, it was she was trying to push herself to be okay with it, but then it was actually crossing the boundaries for her because she hadn't cleared enough trauma to be able to experience that. So that didn't work. So she tried to force herself to be with it, oh, that's the right thing to do. But then she came and found me, and she was I was in the room with the other women, and she was like, oh, good, you're here, this is what's going on. And it was really, then the work was about her embracing her sacred no, which she never got to have when she had the trauma, right? But she sat in the discomfort of that edge. She sat in it. She sat in it until she could say, is it that I'm just a prude? Is it that I'm just so traumatized? And it was no, this is not what is honoring for me right now. So she came to the other room. She said, she said her no, and it was really beautiful for her to own that she was saying this no. And then all of this activating work that we had been doing for 2 days all of a sudden erupted out of her body. It was woo, Shakti Mama just flowing through her hips and her pelvis and her heart. And it was yeah, we'd been setting that up for 2 days, but that was not going to happen. She wasn't going to experience the deep yes of that until she found her sacred no. Not said it, but found it. And to find it requires going to the edge. And it also requires not spiritually bypassing things. If you're in a relationship where your edges are getting pushed a lot, I really invite you to not, bypass it, to feel the discomfort, to be able to arrive at that organic, natural, sacred no. So, let me see what I want to, yeah. So this is really, really important, especially if you have the nice girl, if you have the people pleaser. I bet you will try to bypass that shit. Every time you will try to go to the resolve, to the spiritual concept, to the higher realm, without sitting in the gunk and really finding your no, and often even voicing your no, because that could cause, somebody to not like you, someone to not like you in that moment, someone to change their mind about you, because part of like the nice girl syndrome is that, you know, like you're always thinking that you can control what people will think of you, so that you can sort of protect yourself in that way, which is, you know, obviously not true. So yeah, these are the things that I really wanted to share with you about how important it is to be able to claim that sacred no, and that it does require going to the edge, especially with sexuality. So if there are things, I'm sorry, I hope that is not like totally ruining this live. Especially if there are things that are really upsetting to you. You know, I actually have, I'm like percolating some things that would be really, really edgy, like some of these private days that I could offer clients that are super edgy to take you to that edge with yourself, because it's like the only freaking way. You know, I was waking up, and if you're just watching and you don't know, if you don't know because you haven't been with me for a long time, or we haven't done programs, oh, my girls are here. Oh, my Beauty Unleashed girls are here. A lot of you are here. I love you guys. And my Force of Nature women and girls are here. You know, I'm pregnant, so I'm having really crazy dreams. But in the mornings, was it like yesterday morning, I was remembering this naked photo shoot that I had with a boyfriend in Jamaica, who, like, you know, I was all like posing like beautifully under the waterfall, and he was, and I ended up with all the photos, so it's fine. It was on my camera, but I was like posing like really beautifully under the waterfall, and he like pushed me to get like, you know, kind of raunchy. And I remember like, I was like, can I do that? Like, can, and then it was like, I remember what it was like to see those photos. Like, whoa, like I did that. So anyway, I'm in this process of, I have to figure out where it'll fit in the calendar. If you're interested in it, you can always just tell me. But it would be like a VIP type experience of really taking you to that edge. And it just kind of dropped in that dream space. So anyway, if you've watched this far, if you just came in, I hope you go back and watch and understand about the sacred no, especially if you're in an intimate relationship. You can go to those edges with your spouse. You know, you can, and you get to be really sensitive to each other then, like how is the other one doing, and where is their edge and where is your edge, but can you sit in that discomfort together? Find your individual and couple sacred no, so that then you can go deeper into the yes. And if you have not filled the survey, please fill the survey. I got an interesting email today from someone saying that they wouldn't dare answer those types of intimate questions to someone they just met on the internet. So hopefully you guys know that the surveys are anonymous unless you choose to enter your phone number in there because you want to speak to one of the coaches on my team. So with all that, love you so much. So many blessings as we navigate everything right now. And I know that more than ever, our sacred no and a deep connection to it is so required. Like we all get to come into this knowing so that we can know our yes, so that we can build the society and civilization that we are yearning to build. So yeah, I'm right there with you, sisters. Lots of love. Bye. Actually, I know I just said bye, but do you have any questions? Can I see things on here? If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'll just wait like 60 seconds to see if one gets typed, because I'm like, bye, but I just thought you might have questions, and I have some time, so let's see. Let's see. I could wave to you guys. That's cool. Which story? I know the stories are, I know I have so many stories, and this is the other piece is this book is finally going to get written. This book that has been knocking for such a long time. It's like, yeah. Okay, so I don't see any questions coming in, and if you have them, then you can always post them, and I'll pop back in and answer. Lots of love to you guys. Bye.